Hi everyone, Tom was here back at it with another Steelcitycon review discussion video, I guess you could say. Kind of a putting a bow on the December 2022 edition of Steelcitycon. And things were a little bit different this year. I'm sure you have many opinions on what I mean by that. And I'm going to give you my opinions on what I mean by that. We're going to discuss who we met, pickups, and just talk about the overall experience and why Sunday kind of changed my perspective on the general frustration of waiting and dealing with people when it comes to Steelcitycon. But let's get into it. Steelcitycon, December 2022, and Tom was here.
Hey, how do you like this? I'm Dan Israel, and you're watching Tom Was Here.
Okay, Steelcitycon December 2022, and admittedly, I was a bit conflicted about this one. Not necessarily conflicted, I'll always find a way to go. But when it comes to meeting people, because at this point, with Steel City, I've determined that you have to have a plan. There's just no way you can go in on this unless you're obviously new and have not been around the con experience and not heard anyone or know anyone that has talked about the con experience, and you just go like, oh, I'm gonna go and get, you know, the guy from Sons of Anarchy's autograph, the Undertaker's autograph, and I'm gonna do it all in one day. No, you kind of have to come in with somewhat of a game plan. And the people that I was coming in to meet, there were quite a few. Some are what I would call like must-have, and some were like, it would be nice, is the way I had it. And so my must-have people were The Undertaker and Giancarlo Esposito, Christy Brinkley. What's-his-face from Gayton from Stranger Things, Dustin. So those were the people that I were kind of like, all right, these are the people I think I'm going to meet. And then Giancarlo Esposito canceled. And kind of canceled real late, like canceled on Friday. So it kind of threw everything for a loop. Didn't end up going Friday because I wasn't sure and didn't really look into a ton who was going to be there on Friday versus just Saturday and Sunday. But it didn't seem like anybody that was A1 had to meet was going to be there on Friday. Now, there were people I wanted to meet, like Jerry the King Lawler and William Zabka from Cobra Kai, maybe even the guy Martin Kove, who plays John Kreese on Cobra Kai, and a few other people that were there. I wouldn't have mind meeting, and if I had a bigger budget, you know, it's around holiday season, maybe I would have met those guys. But so what happened was I didn't end up going Friday. Woke up on Saturday to go. Was trying to get my son out of bed. He wasn't feeling well. He was feeling sick. He was coughing a lot. And I was like, I'm not going to put him through that. So I had an Undertaker photo op. When Undertaker was announced, I was all in. I was like, oh, cool. I was like, I'm going to go on eBay. I'm going to get like the Winged Eagle belt or one of the Undertaker Legacy belts or an urn for him to sign and a photo op. And yeah, it's the Undertaker. It's arguably the greatest gimmick in all of wrestling. I'm absolutely going to do that. Then the pricing came out for the Undertaker and I went, I may not be getting anything. And I talked with several people about this and everybody kind of had the same thing, like, no. I was so conflicted on what to do about The Undertaker that I kind of went back to my old days of when I went to the con for many years in a row. Before the pandemic, I didn't really collect any autographs at all. Just at all. So I had none of these things I had in my possession with the exception of maybe like one or two of these down here from like previous Steel City cons that I had as autographs in my collection. So all of this is a pandemic. You know, everybody had their, like, pandemic-level hobby. And that was mine, was collecting autographs. So, I had not pulled the trigger on anything Undertaker-wise until about a few days before the con. I was sitting in my office, and I had just sold a bunch of stuff on eBay, which kind of cushioned the blow a bit more. But I was sitting in my office, and I was looking at what used to sit over here, if you watch my older videos. It's a 1992 Royal Rumble poster signed by Ric Flair. And I rented that Rumble from West Coast Video. I know, kids, I'm showing my age. If the gray hair didn't fool you, the fact that I'm old and used to rent videos certainly would. When I was a boy, and every time we would go down to West Coast Video, I would always grab the 1992 Royal Rumble because it still holds up as the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. But on that poster is the Undertaker, and I realized that when that occurred, I was 8 years old. He's been around since I was 8 years old. That's how long he's been doing this. He wrestled when I was 8 years old. He wrestled when my son was 8 years old. He's been that long. Like, that's a significant amount of time. So I was like, let's pull the trigger on it. Let's do it. So I had locked in an Undertaker photo op. That's the only photo op I locked in. So going to the mall, I knew I had an Undertaker photo op at, I think it was like 1:45. I had the last session, the last one available, Session E. So I was like, I'm going to make a fashionably late entrance on Saturday, knowing I'm going to be there a while. This time when I showed up at the mall, because everybody parks at kind of where like the Macy's is, the entire Macy's parking lot was full. And I knew there wasn't that many people that were there at Macy's. So I was like, oh boy. I parked, if you're familiar, all the way down by Best Buy, which is the opposite side of the mall, because that was the place where I actually found spaces. It was the craziest I had ever seen it as far as cars in the parking lot are concerned. Then I got inside, and it was just about the craziest I'd ever seen it on any Saturday ever. Kudos to Steelcitycon for putting together a lineup of such, fandoms that just about everybody had a line, which is crazy. That usually doesn't happen. There were a few people that did not have a, not as much of a line, but like some people had just massive, massive lines. More than I expected, certainly. So I got in, really didn't have time to kind of, look around too much before the Undertaker photo op, but I went over to, I went through kind of the main area. The bottlenecks were way too crazy. The bottlenecks, if you're, kind of where the food stand is, and I started going around to where, like, the photo ops were. I don't even try to go on by the food stand anymore because it's just too nuts. But I tried going where the photo ops were, and it was just as bad. Just as bad. To the point where they're, like, yelling at people to move, and nobody's moving. I don't know what people were waiting on. I don't know if people were waiting, by, like, the autograph table. They sell those autographs from previous cons, or what was the backup, but the backup was significant. And a lot of people just kind of, I saw, gave up and just like went out the side doors. But I pushed on and pushed through to see what everybody's lines looked like, and everybody's lines were crazy from what I saw. Everybody had a robust line. Even people that I had to almost justify in my mind why someone would have a robust line versus other. Like Steve from Blue's Clues had a robust line every time I saw it. And I was like, really? The dude from Blue's Clues, huh? And then I remember he kind of raised an entire generation of kids, so they're very loyal to that dude. So, fair enough. And then Paula Abdul, because it was a Saturday, she was just there on Saturday, she had a nice lineup going. And, Chevy had a nice lineup going. I didn't even get over to the hotel. This was just in the place. And Christy Brinkley had a good line. But the biggest line I guess I was surprised by is William Zabka, who I was going to meet, the dude from Cobra Kai. Because the last few times I was like, oh, I'll just get him the next time. And now I was like, well, I might not get him at all because his line was so crazy. So everybody had a nice size line. So I ran over to the hotel, walked in the main doors to the hotel, and was told, you can't go through the main doors of the hotel. You have to go through the side doors. Well, I went through the side doors, and there were lines coming out of the side doors. And I went, nope, not doing that. I'm not waiting in line to go in there when I have the photo op. So ran back over, and I had some time to kill, so I went back in, and I figured I would mill around the vendor section until my time came up, because I had about 15-20 minutes, let's say, before they would start lining up Group E. Ran into a very nice guy and his son, Kirk. If you're watching, thanks for watching. He actually admitted in public, out loud, that he watches the channel. And look, that's not lost on me. I appreciate greatly when someone actually comes up to me and says they like and appreciate the channel. But it was even further in this one that not only did he watch the Steel City stuff, but he used to actually run a haunted house and currently runs an escape room in Titusville, that he watches the haunted house stuff as well. That was really, really cool, like, as like, you know, because it's one thing. A lot of my videos are kind of single serving. If you watch just Steelcitycon videos, that may be the only thing you're interested in that I do. But it's cool that somebody watches other things. So, talked with him for a long while. Obviously, I was completely alone, and he had an Undertaker photo op as well. So, I was like, you want to just, you know, because he had not done this in a long time. He said he went to cons in like the past. But, you know, obviously I've been to just about every one at this point, give or take a few. And so I was able to show him kind of, you know, where to go, what to do, set him up, make sure he got, you know, got in the right spot. Obviously this was like his bucket list thing for him to meet the Undertaker, and to certain people, of course, like this is a generational wrestler, arguably the greatest gimmick in all of wrestling. So, got the photo up, you know, Kirk and his son, very nice to meet you. Hope you like the stickers, and thanks so much for watching. But yeah, it was really cool for them to keep me company, because my son wasn't feeling well and I was all alone. So, very cool of them to hang out with me in the line. But Undertaker photo op went without a hitch. You know, was able to shake the dead man's hand, tell him I appreciated the, you know, big fan, sir. Thank you for the years of entertainment. You know, and you know, it was cool guy. You know, like so you only get a few seconds in the photo op, but shook his hand a couple times. Once when I came in, once when I left. And yeah, on my way, got the picture, got it rolling. So, yeah, I felt accomplished. I was like, okay, cool. Got the Undertaker photo op out of the way. We're all set. Where I was like, okay, who do I really want to get that, because my son will not be there, and I can wait in line without frustration. Who would I get? And I was like, okay, cool. I'll also go check out William Zabka's line from Cobra Kai, because he doesn't watch Cobra Kai. And Cobra Kai is a show that is way better than it has any right to be. It's a surprisingly good show. So I would have absolutely met William Zabka, but his line was crazy. And then I looked, I was like, okay, well, Christy Brinkley's thing, she was in a Q&A. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went over to the hotel. The lines were just as long on the hotel side, just as long. And so I like parted the Red Sea between the lines. And apparently a lot of people didn't realize. They thought the line was just to get in the hotel. But I walked in the hotel to assess everyone's line, because I was kind of making plans for the next day, for Sunday. And I know my son wanted like a Gaten autograph. He has a Stranger Things poster in his room that's signed by Finn Wolfhard. And I was like, he wanted to add Gaten to it. And then I saw his line and I was like, nope. I don't think that's going to happen, bud. And yeah, so then I checked everybody else's line, and their lines were crazy. The dude from Sons of Anarchy, his line was absolutely insane. In fact, when I was walking out the first time they were walking him back from his photo ops, seemed like a nice guy, but I never watched Sons of Anarchy, so I didn't have like a big interest in him, but I know a lot of people did. But the Lord of the Rings people were there, all four of the main guys, and yeah, their lines were busy all day. Everybody's line was absolutely crazy over there. So I left the hotel, came back over, trying to figure out what to do. I wasn't sure what to do. So I kind of walked around the vendor area for a while, and really only got one pickup on Saturday, and that is look, the boy likes his Super Bowl rings, and every video, and it seems every time we get a Super Bowl ring, and even though he wasn't there to guilt trip me into one, I was like, you know what, I'll get him a Super Bowl ring. This is the new LA Rams one. The cool thing about this one is that the LA Rams actual ring like screws off, and there's the stadium in there, and this actually has that with like the cheapest magnets, and I mean, I get it's a replica ring, but like the cheapest magnets on the planet but still, it's still kind of cool. It still works. So I got him that, and I was just kind of milling around trying to figure out what to do. Sat in on Christy Brinkley and Beverly D'Angelo's Q&A for a little while. Looking to see if there was a line to get into. I thought just as like a fun, like, I was looking like Jerry the King had a nice line, and I figured I'd wait until the next day, Sunday, to meet Lawler, because I thought like the boy might be interested. I was like, maybe I'll just get into Paula Abdul's line, because when are you ever going to meet Paula Abdul just because she's there one day? I actually ran into her coming back after I grabbed the Undertaker photo. That bottleneck right there was just so chock full of people, and I was just kind of like wading through by the autograph table, and apparently someone, and I couldn't tell who, was wading through the other way because people were like turning their head and looking, but apparently it was Paula Abdul going for photo ops, and like she went this way and I went this way, and we interacted here, and she is the tiniest little person. I mean, my daughter's 9 years old, and you know, when you see people that are not your children, but they kind of have the same height as your kids, where you're like, that's you're down there. That's basically how she was that small. But we almost bumped into each other. But I was like, when, you know, that's more like I didn't really have a ton of interest, but it's like it's one of those rare oddities. Her line was way too long. And then Christy Brinkley's Q&A got done, and I was like, you know what? Her line doesn't look that bad because she was at a Q&A. I'll jump in Christy Brinkley's line. I wonder, you know, you see her on TV and stuff like that, or you see her in like a commercial or like an ad or YouTube or something like that. And it's like, does she really still hold up? And I have to tell you, yes. She still looks, despite being almost double my age, she looks way younger than me. And that's just a fact, a true fact. And, you know, I mentioned that when I posted it on Facebook, and a lot of people were like, whoa, it's a lot of money to get, you know, a lot of work done. And I'm like, yeah, let's put it this way. If she got work done, and then maybe she did or not, I would assume at that point that everybody, when they get older, has that. Work don't always look good on everybody. It looks just fine on her, just fine. So, so she was so sweet and so nice, but she was so kind to do that with everybody. And so that line that wasn't nearly as long was arguably my longest wait of the day. Because while it wasn't so long, she took her time with everybody, and she was very kind to everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that other than the time it takes to get there. So it's great when after you're done with it, but the time it takes to get there, and that time was considerable. So that took a while, and to be honest, it's kind of zapped my energy for the rest of the day. I'm looking at everybody's line was still just as long, and I was like, wow. All right, we'll chalk it off to tomorrow. Now, the only thing I had going for tomorrow was we had a Gaten, Dustin from Stranger Things photo op that I pulled the trigger on last minute as well. Just this past week, I pulled the trigger on it. So it wasn't like a big plan. It was more like, okay, the show's coming up, what to do. Here's the people I want to get. So went home that night, walked into a situation where my wife wasn't feeling well. She ended up driving herself to the ER at like 2 a.m. And I was concerned. I was like, well, maybe is this something where, because she had like a toothache that kind of, it started out as a toothache, and then it's kind of like protruded up her face where she was in pain. Well, they gave her stuff for it, and she came home later tonight and she seemed fine. And I was like, okay, cool. It's like, so I maybe can work Sunday out. Woke up on Sunday morning. And on Sunday morning, I was prepared to wait in a line. And I did wait in a line. as I'm sure most of you did. However, the line I waited in was not Steelcitycon. It was a hospital emergency room because my wife had to go back. So unfortunately, I did not get to Steelcitycon on Sunday at all because obviously, when, your wife's in pain, you can't do anything for her, but I can't be like, oh, hey honey, look, I I know you're in pain. Here's what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you drive to the emergency room and stay there. And I'm going to go meet the kid from Stranger Things and a few other people. And a few hours later, I'll come back and see how you're doing. Like, that just doesn't fly. Obviously, health of your family comes first. So, that is ultimately what had to happen, unfortunately. And so I missed out on all Sunday. Missed out on Stranger Things kid, on anybody else I would have met on Sunday. But there's a certain perspective there. Because in the forum, especially today's Monday, when I'm filming this, the griping that people are doing about their experience and how the con's oversized and overbooked and it's too small. Of course it's too small. Of course it's too small. It's been too small forever. The only difference is the Steel City keeps stacking top talent that you want to see on the card. And there's a lot of people. You're not the only person that wants to see those people. You're not the only person. So these people, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with griping. But you're griping about all the same thing. The venue's too small. It's too overbooked. There's too many people. Yeah. But Steel City has said on the record that they are not going to move from Monroeville Convention Center. Sitting there in an emergency room on Sunday, instead of being in Steelcitycon, did put a lot of things in perspective. As, I never really griped about obviously, I think everybody would understand that there's just an incredible amount of people there. And as they add more top people, there's just going to be way long lines, a lot of stuff going on, and not everybody's going to have the answers that you seek. A lot of these people are volunteers that are working there, and kudos to them for running the ship, but I mean, not everybody's going to know everything, every question on demand at any point. There's a little bit of confusion. It's a live situation. It's an active situation. There's a lot going on, and in some cases, nobody will have all the answers for you. But sitting in an emergency room and realizing you have to wait for that versus like, oh, I have to wait to get the Sons of Anarchy guy. Seeing your wife in pain in there, holding her face, miserable, very upset, versus having to wait a few hours to see the kid from Stranger Things, or, the guy from Cobra Kai. It's not even remotely close to a difficult situation. Is it an uncomfortable situation? Sure. Do people that have anxiety and have to deal with that? Sure. If you're asking me, would I want to wait in line for hours to meet someone? The answer is no. Absolutely not. Why would anyone want to do that? And you have to acknowledge that going in. You have to acknowledge that at some point in this fun you're going to get into, in this meeting these people that you only wish you could ever meet, that you're going to be inconvenienced. That not everything is going to work out like you want it to. I ran into that with Chevy. If you watched my video a couple times ago with Chevy in April, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. There's two ways you can handle that. You can flip and freak out and go insane on someone, or you can acknowledge that things happen. Things happen when there's so many people. And this is another one of those things where there's just so many people. There were so many fan groups of interest. You had the Sons of Anarchy people, you had the Stranger Things people, you had the Lord of the Rings people, you had the Vacation people, you had Paula Abdul in her first appearance, you had Christy Brinkley, you had all the Cobra Kai people, which, don't get me wrong, has a major fandom of their own, as I saw being there. You have the Blue's Clues guy who drew the entire time. You have Mama from Mama's Family, big draw. And that's not even the people I have mentioned. So many people, so many fan interests for everybody. You know you were going to run into anarchy. Now, when I was sitting in that hospital waiting room, an ER that eventually became a room, and sitting there watching the Steelers let me down yet again, I was getting reports from people who were at Steelcitycon to tell me a surprising stat that Sunday was somehow worse. I thought with The Undertaker and with Paula Abdul not being there, that Sunday would be arguably better. And let's bury the myth in these recent times about Sunday being the slow day. Friday's the slow day. Friday's the slow day because hardly anybody's there as of yet, and they don't get into the later afternoon, evening. So if you want to meet someone that's going to be there on a Friday, go on Friday, say afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, and you'll probably be able to meet just about anybody you'd want to meet on Friday. Saturday, as we all know, is pandemonium. But Sunday, if they still have just about the same people there, is going to be just as bad, but in this case, actually, surprisingly worse. I don't know how this happened, but I saw a picture that Anthony, who's in one of the Facebook groups, actually posted on my post, that he went to go grab something out of his car or drop off autographs or something in his car, and there was a line to get back in the building that was near the road. So the large parking lot and then the road, and then it was going up the hill as well. Apparently the rumor is, based on what he heard, is that the fire marshal shut it down and refused to let people in the building. Now what's interesting is, when he posted that was around the time that my photo op for Gayton was. And we were going to get there, I had planned to get there about 11:30. Would I have even been able to get in the building to get this photo op? And because my son was sick on the Saturday, and we got 3-day passes, he didn't pick up his 3-day pass ticket. So we would have had to go get the ticket, which they may not have even given us, or the band, which they may not have even given us because the fire marshal restricted it, for Sunday. Went through that ridiculously long line, and then got to the photo ops in the hopes that we could make it for that time frame. I also heard photo ops outside were a mess, that certain people's autograph lines were just insane. It just sounded like Sunday was a big disaster. And I was surprised because I thought The Undertaker would be a big draw away from that. 3-day pass at this point, if there's multiple people you want to see, may be mandatory. And I only say that because you're not getting them done in one day. Very unlikely you're getting them all done in one day, especially if it's anything like this last one. And I can only speak for Saturday. So Saturday, I got The Undertaker photo op line and Christy Brinkley, and just did a picture with her at her table, and that was it. That was all I got for Steelcitycon December 2022. Unfortunately, I was going to meet Zabka, I was going to meet Lawler, I was considering meeting a few other people. Did not happen. Was not in the cards. I instead sat in a hospital with my wife almost all day. From we got there at 11:20 or something, and we were there till after 6. So not the greatest Sunday for me, especially when to meet some of these people. And then I was like, well, I'm out the money. I'm out the money as well from the photo op. I'm out the money from the 3-day pass. So I had sent a message last night, and I figured they were getting bombarded with messages because a lot of people were griping about all types of stuff. And I was like, hey guys, look, unfortunately I was in ER with my wife all day, missed out on the photo op, and my son never put in the 3-day pass. Is there anything you can do about this? Anything you do would be greatly appreciated. And kudos to the group, kudos to the team at SteelCityCon, that they credited back the gate and photo op. Now, I haven't heard anything on the ticket, and I'm not as worried about that one because I could have arguably given that to someone else, or I just assumed we would be there on Sunday like we always are, and it did not happen that way. So what kind of put it into perspective was I was in the hospital waiting room, in the emergency room, waiting for my wife to get called back, and then I heard the familiar gong of the Undertaker. Bum. Bum, 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 bum. And I was like, wait a minute. What's happening here? I realized that was someone's ringtone. Now, is that the most appropriate ringtone for a hospital ER waiting room? Maybe it's full circle now. It's full circle at this point. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on SteelCityCon December 2022. Did you like it? Did you get all the people that you wanted to get? Is it something that, have you sworn off Steel City? I notice a lot of people, they do this directly after the con. They're like, I'm done. It was too crazy for me. I'm done. I can't handle going to Steel City anymore. I was in Christy Brinkley's line, and they paged Jordan the Lion. Jordan the Lion, very big YouTuber that I didn't even realize he was there. I was like, I would have met that dude, but you're not just getting interest from just the local people. People are driving in from everywhere. People are driving in from several states to meet Chevy, I saw in the thing, to meet the dude from Stranger Things, to meet the Lord of the Rings guys, to meet everybody. So they're not worried about 1 or 2 or 10 or 15. And by the way, that's fine. If you want to retire from this, you can't handle this convention anymore because A, B, C, D reason, that's fine. Because they're going to find people to replace you. They're going to find so many people that are going to come to this convention. If it were me and I was running Steel City, I'll be honest, I would somehow find a way to move Artist Alley into the vendor area somehow. Condense some of the vendor area. And I know everybody's like, don't condense the vendor area, they're the lifeblood of the con, blah, blah, blah. No, find a way to put Artist Alley in the convention area vendor space, and that whole back area should be celebrity lines and such. That's, for future, I just don't see a scenario, because, and I get that will certainly help with the bottleneck. That will certainly help with the flow. It should. Obviously, a lot of people are going to want to get back there and see certain celebrities and things, so they'd have to organize it in such a way. But this one was just packed to the gills. Who did you meet? Did you have any good experiences? Did you have any bad experiences with someone? Let me know. I thought, just like every single time, I come away with positive experiences from everyone. I never ran into a situation where I had a bad experience with someone. So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, you can do so. Link is in the description below. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, a Tomwashere t-shirt, you can do so at Spreadshirt, as well as links to my eBay store, Facebook page, Instagram, Clubhouse, and the Pennsylvania Autograph Collectors Association. Links are in the description below. SteelCityCon, December 2022. In the books. Next show is the end of March, I think. March, early April. I will save up my pennies then. I'm sure there'll be someone. I'm sure they'll add someone. Thank you so much for watching. And until the next video, I will see you soon. But until then, bye everyone.